my first DOR was back when I was in college at USC about probably 8 or so years ago. I think they were just celebrating, I think maybe the 40th or the 35th anniversary then. So actually LADOR, as of this year, is actually entering its 46th year, I think, if we did the math right. The first DOR was held back in 1979, right after the first Manzanar pilgrimage. And it was started off with some folks from that pilgrimage, as well as JCL and some other local leaders who really wanted to get it going. And then a few years after that, some other groups joined in, NCRR, Nikkei Progressives, and a few others. And ever since then, it's really been taking off from there. And more groups, as well as individual community members, have joined in over the years here and there. JANM's now a part of it, as well as a few other local community groups out here in Little Tokyo. So now it's really made by a whole coalition of folks in and around Little Tokyo. Yeah, and I think LADOR is one of those big events that really does bring Little Tokyo community together. I mean, on average, depending on the year, especially now that COVID's sort of come to an end, and prior to COVID, the numbers range from about 250. One year we were upwards of 500. So it really varies from year to year, but on average, we get about 300 or so participants, I'd say, that come to LADOR. Every year with DOR, our theme obviously centers around the incarceration experience, what happened to a lot of our families during the war. But what we really want to try and do each year with our theme is sort of bring about stories, experiences that are either, well, they're all relevant to what is happening today, but especially those that might not always be in the forefront, things that are either forgotten about or not as well documented. Or in this case, there's a lot of stories of women throughout Japanese American history, but especially during the camps, who did extraordinary and amazing things that might not be told in the history books or might not be known just because it was part of their everyday life. And I think it's something that all of us can relate to, since we all had mothers, grandmothers, great-grandmothers, aunts, cousins, sisters, whoever it may be, who either went through the camp experience and went through a lot of these experiences during the war. And so I think that's why a lot of our members, this was actually, when we were coming up with this year's theme, actually, in our discussion, this was actually the first thing that was pitched, just because so many of us really thought that this was a fitting theme for the year. The biggest takeaways we want to have from this is, while we are going to highlight women leaders who were at the forefront, who were sort of in the spotlight, whether they necessarily wanted to be or not, I think the one thing we really wanted to focus on is that these experiences are something that everyone had during the war, and every family had to deal with. Mothers, grandmothers, great-grandmothers, cousins, sisters, everybody sort of had to have these experiences. And that even though there are these stories and these experiences of these folks who were in the spotlight again, whether they like to be or not, that there's also these experiences that your family may have had, or that other people may have had, that might have been hidden or forgotten for one reason or another. And it's just a reminder that all of that legacy and all that they went through, all the sacrifices, hardships, and also the triumphs that they went through are still in us today, because that's how we got to where we are. And I think it really resonates, I think, with a lot of folks, because a lot of the hardships that people go through now, whether it's visible or invisible, we all go through those hardships. And a lot of folks go through different experiences that shape who we are, but also shape the next generation and shape our children, our grandchildren. Moved DOR this year over to LA Honpa Hongwanji, which most folks I think know as Nishibetsuin Temple on First Street. So it'll be up on the JANM webpage under their events. Registration is free. It's first come, first serve on the day for registration, and then on the day of, as long as you're registered, it's first come, first serve for seating as well.